I am Miss Golbus, but you can call me Miss G. I am in Pennsylvania, nowhere anything super exciting like some of you, all the way across all of the world, so many people from everywhere else. So today on our schedule, we are going to be learning about animals and animal tracking today. So I guess I kind of have a question for you guys about that. Have you guys ever tracked animals? Do you have a favorite animal? Like, are there animals in maybe the woods near where you live? Or if you don't live in the woods, if you live in the city, like what kind of animals do you guys usually see just around you? Because we are going to be learning about some animals in Pennsylvania. Dogs around you, yes, I think a lot of people will have dogs and pets. You like monkeys, William? Awesome. Lots of deer and birds, dogs, squirrels and cats, fox and deer. My goodness, you guys have a lot of animals around you. And we're going to be learning a little bit about actually a lot of these animals today. And we're going to be learning a little bit about what it means to track animals, a little bit about what it's like to see them in the wild, some different things about them. And I'm going to give you guys some really cool websites where you can learn more about animals that live all across the United States. So if you live in, sadly, we're not going to learn about wolves. There aren't any wolves in Pennsylvania, so we're not going to learn too much about that. Pandas are an awesome animal. So we're not going to be learning about panda bears, but we are going to be learning about some bears. Oh, turtles. Turtles are so cool. I saw a box turtle in the woods the other day. Oh my goodness, you guys have a lot of cool animals that you have seen. Now, as we are getting joined in, guys, I want you to pause in the chat for a sec because I'm going to put a link in. So everybody needs to be able to get to this link. So pause your typing, no typing for a sec, and let's join this link because we're going to be working on an activity together. So if you guys can join that link in chat, that way you'll have a chance to do some drawing, do some typing, do some interacting within this link. So you guys can click on that. So you can click on it. If it doesn't let you click on it, don't worry, I will be app sharing it. So if you can't join it, I will share my screen in just a sec. Thank you guys for letting me know that it wasn't working for some people. All right, so for those of you who couldn't join it, now can you see it okay on the screen there? Can you guys see that okay? Nice, I'm seeing some thumbs up. I'm seeing a bunch of yeses. All right, and now if you guys couldn't join it, you can see it okay. If you do need to work it, if the website won't work, you'll just follow along on the screen and can interact in chat. All right, so guys, this is what we're going to be learning about today. We're going to learn about some animal tracking. We're going to learn how to identify tracks and signs. And then when we're all done, we're going to make a bird feeder so we can attract some animals to us so that we can, observe more different types of animals. Birds will definitely come. Squirrels might come to your bird feeder too. And by the way, sometime later this week, we're going to learn how to identify birds. So if you have your bird feeder set up after today, it might attract some birds that you can identify. Sound good? Awesome. So let's get going. Well, first off, we have to learn some new things. So the first new thing we're going to learn is just what are tracks and what is a track trap. How do you track traps? Tracks. How do you do that? So let's see what it is. So the track is when you leave a footprint in the ground in the mud, that's a track, right? Have you guys seen animal tracks going through your woods or in your yard, or you guys have seen that, right? And you sometimes know exactly what it is. Like when I go for a walk in the park, I can see where there's been bikes going down the trail, people going down the trail. Sometimes you can see dog prints going down the trail. Well, a track is whatever you are following to identify the animal. So you can also call it a trace, an imprint, a mark, a spore, an impression. These are all different words that mean the same thing. That's really cool, Izzy. You can identify rabbit prints. And now there's something called a track trap. It's an area where sign of passage would be easily detected. What does that mean? So guys, what do you think like a track trap could be? It says they can be naturally occurring or man-made. So how could you make an area that would be perfect for finding tracks? Like what's mud or snow? Yeah, that's exactly, that would be perfect for finding tracks, right? You guys can just type it right into the chat if you have an idea. Yeah, if there's dirt or water. What if it's been a really dry day though, and there's no mud? How in the world could you find some tracks? Oh, sand. Sand is a good idea because in the desert, you still can follow tracks. Snow. Can you guys think of a place in your yard where you could make a track trap? Like, do you have a place outside your house or somewhere nearby? In a garden? Yeah, if you smooth out some dirt in a garden, or if you find some dirt. Yeah, and all what you need to do is look for a place like that and see if there's any tracks. Now, let's learn about some tracks. Let's see. Oops, here we go. All right, now there's different types of tracks that we can follow. These are some, I know, these are some interesting words, so if you don't want to read the whole thing, it's okay. But a bound, it's an animal's gait when the hind feet land on or in front of the tracks made by the front feet. What does that mean? So it means like they're running really fast. And like when they run, if you guys have ever seen a video of like a cheetah running or a rabbit hopping, they bring their back feet really far forward, right? So that's called a bound when they're bringing, like they're running and they're really pushing their feet far back, right? A gait is just a way of talking about how fast someone is going. So you could say a gait is a walk, not like a garden gait, but a gait could be walking or trotting, which is a little faster, or loping or galloping. So basically just how fast was the animal going? Your dog does that, Aubrey? Yeah, sometimes we can see our dogs or cats bounding when they're going really fast. Their back feet come right up to the front feet, kind of like back feet, front feet like this, like they cross over as they're running. All right, now here's a really cool thing that you have to find to track animals. Scat. Do you guys know what scat is before you even read what it says on the board? Does everybody know what scat is? Yup, it's poop. That's a great way to track animals because all animals have different kinds of poop. So that's a great way to track them. It's kind of funny too, right? So now let's learn about some different types of animals and their tracks and their scat. So first off, this is probably an animal you guys have seen a lot of different tracks for, a white-tailed deer. That's pretty cool, right? You probably see it mostly when the tracks are together. If you've seen it, it's like when the two tracks are like this, it's pointing like an arrow. So when they're above is bounding and below is walking. So bounding is when they're going really fast and their tracks are more spread out like this. And you see how their tracks are spread like this? Why would they be spreading out their hooves when they're going faster? To have more friction, yeah, because it's more surface area that it's covering. Yeah, to get a grip. Yeah, so they're spreading out their hooves. So if you see deer hooves that are spread out, you know they were going fast. If they're close together, they were going slowly. So next time you go in the woods, or if you look up different tracks, now you know what it's like. So this is a white-tailed deer, and these are two footprints right within each other. So the deer was walking, and when they walk, their prints, when they're going slowly, they end up being right inside of each other, which is really cool. Here's some footprints. Now look, see, these tracks are more open. So maybe this deer was going faster because they're spread out, right? Here's some deer scat. And look at this. What do you think this is? Why did I show a picture of grass with like being bent down? What's that for? It's laying down. Deer actually will make kind of like a nest in the grass. They'll lie down and make a circle of pressed down grass, and that's where they sleep overnight. They like to make a little nest for themselves. So that's a little bit about deer. Now let's see, what animal are we learning about next? All right, now try to look just in the bottom left corner of the screen. Can you guys guess what this animal is before seeing anything else? Just kind of close your eyes and see if you can guess from it. What kind of footprint is this? Just try looking at the footprints. Do you know what it is? Yup, it's a rabbit. So their front foot is this little bit right here. They just have just their front paw, but their back footprint, they lie down their leg on the ground too. So their front, they just lay down the front part. The back foot, they lay down the whole thing. How do they grip? A rabbit foot isn't fuzzy underneath. They have a pad. So if you've looked underneath like a cat's foot or a dog foot, it is, they have a grip pad where it's like just a rough skin, and that's how they grip on. Rabbits also have claws, so that helps them to grip too. So above is when they're hopping. You can tell a rabbit is hopping because its front paws will be landed right in between its back paws, because they push off and then they land, and then they push off and then they land. But when they are bounding, so bounding is when they're going really fast, they are just running really fast, and they're not just hopping, so their legs are more spread out. So you can see here, see how the legs are spread out? Just like in this picture right here. So here, this rabbit was running along because its two front feet tracks are more spread out. So this rabbit was running along. This one was running along too. And of course, we have to have a picture of rabbit scat so you know what it looks like if you see it in the woods. Oh, William and Isaac, that's really cool, a baby rabbit. All right, so let's learn about another animal. Ooh, this one's cool. Have you guys seen raccoon tracks before? That's okay, Aaron. All right, so now raccoon tracks are really cool because they look like they just have handprints, right? So here's the important thing about raccoon tracks. Look at their, it doesn't just look like handprints, like tiny, skinny, bony hands. So basically, if you hold up your hands and you find a mini version of that on the ground, you probably have found raccoon tracks. Look at them. All the examples, don't they just look like little tiny handprints? Only thing is, you will see claws in front of them. So see all these different dots? These are the claws in front of the raccoon tracks. And then their back paws are pretty much the same. They look like more handprints, but they're just a little bit bigger. Isn't that cool? I love raccoons, but you see, their hand isn't like ours. Their hand comes down a little bit further to the outside in the front. So it's kind of like a crooked hand almost. I don't know. I'm trying to make raccoon. Can you guys make raccoon tracks? Imagine it looks like this. So this is how you can identify them in the woods. So like weird crooked ones. Blech. You can make pretend ones. All right. Oh, and guys, this one's a really cool track. Black bear. Exactly, Carly. So The bear tracks. And now you see there's this lighter gray thing. So this lighter gray means sometimes you can see that and sometimes you can't see that when they make their tracks. So sometimes the track is just the front part and other times the track is the back part. So usually it's just this part that you see. You don't always see this back part. It depends on how slow the bear is going, or if it depends if it's walking in snow. And if it's deep snow, you can see that part better. And look, when they walk, their tracks are pretty close together. See, the front and the back track come pretty close as they're walking. So yes, Layla, they do. So this is the heel, but you can't always see these heels when they're walking. So these are the heels in the back. So they don't always, so it's kind of like they're almost walking on tiptoe sometimes. Oh, or look at this. Look at these really cool scratch marks in the tree. The bear was sharpening his claws. All right, so let's see another one. And guys, if you have a question that you put into chat, I will try to answer it as soon as I can. If I don't see it, make sure you just raise your hand or give me some kind of smiley face so that I can see it. Because if you spam the chat, I won't see all the questions. So I don't want to
help out too. So I'll be helping with answering some questions too and asking questions. Right. So you just have to put it out there once. I promise I'll get to you, okay?
All right, so I see a few people put their hands up. So if you can type your questions into chat, I can try to answer some of those now if you have a question about black bears.
So there is one from Layla that asks, do black bears have a heel on their feet?
All right, and so that's this question right here. See what we have circled in red? That would be their heel, but you can't always see it. It depends on how fast the black bear is walking. And it also depends if they're walking in something that's deep enough for their heel to imprint in. So if they're walking in deeper snow, you might see it. If they're walking in just like really thin mud, you wouldn't. And yes, Journey, their big ears do help them here. Those are pretty big ears up here, right?
Oh, how deep can a scratch cut?
Oh, I do not know that one, but I'm pretty sure they have, what was it? They might have like 3 or 4 inch claws. So imagine like my fingers, that's how long their claws are. So that's pretty long, right? And you can see their claws in front of their paws. So it's not just the claws on the very end, you can actually see their claws in front. So it's pretty cool.
And V and Charlie wanted to know about, like, does scratching on trees help them sharpen their claws? And how does that even work? Is it like how when you sharpen a knife?
I think that's how it would be. So if they find a really hard tree, they could sharpen. But if it's not a hard tree, it looks like, I think this tree is not hard enough because you can really see, this is a birch tree. No, that's a beech tree. They have pretty soft bark, so I don't think that would be the best for sharpening. Oh, or here you can see some hair has been caught in a tree.
And Hector says that he has a black bear. I'm hoping it's a stuffed bear or a, one of those stuffed animal bears and not a real bear, Hector. But Aubrey wanted to know, are black bears black at birth or do their fur change as they get older?
They are black from birth. So if you ever see like a picture of a baby black bear, they've always been black. They just look like a mini bear that's a little bit skinnier. The big bears are fat because they've always been eating lots of food so they can hibernate for the winter. The little ones, they didn't really have a chance to grow yet, so they're just very skinny, but they are still black. All right, guys, let me see. Oh, we have one more animal and then we have a video.
What's that, Miss G? I'm sorry.
Oh, we have one more animal, and then we actually have a really cool video where a guy is going to show us some prints and how to identify them. So that's going to be really cool. So how about we go through a couple more questions, and then we'll make sure we get a chance to go to those too. And then I want to give us a chance to identify tracks. So I think you guys are going to be able to do it.
Wonderful. By the way, for the person who asked, how does a bear get into a car? The same way we do. They just open up the door, sit right in. I don't know about driving it, but that's how they would get in. Miss G, I know you see you got a few other questions too. Everybody seems to be really curious about black bears.
I don't know. I don't know how to answer all these questions because I was focusing on their tracks, so I don't know all of these ones. But let's see.
So
Oh yeah, definitely don't take a black bear cub. The mom will be really mad. But often black bears are not actually that mean. They would be more mean if they have a cub and they're trying to protect it. So that's why in the woods, if you're going in woods where you know there are black bears, if you stay noisy, the bears will stay away because they're like, oh, there's someone really noisy over there. They sound like they're big. I'm going to avoid them. That's why you don't really see bears so much because they like to avoid people and be on their own. So if you stay noisy in the woods, it tends to keep the bears away. It's only if you surprise them and come up to them that they tend to be more angry.
So I saw two more questions. I'm going to ask those, and then we can always come back to some more questions about black bears as we continue. So,
All right.
Where do black bears sleep? I mean, we know that bears go into hibernation, but in general, where do they sleep?
They can sleep in caves or they can sleep in I think like deer, like you know how the deer made kind of like a bed where it lay down. Sometimes a bear will do that, kind of like just find a comfy place under a tree to lay down. I think bears will sometimes even climb into trees to sleep because they're really good climbers. I mean, those claws really help them.
And someone else asked too about bear fur color. You mentioned they're born with their black fur, but much like how Mr. Sheik's beard is kind of turning gray, when black bears get older, do their fur turn gray as well?
I think they stay mostly black, but they might get a few gray hairs in there. I know like even dogs will get gray hairs, but not a lot. Like if you look at a cat or a dog when it gets older, they only turn a little bit more gray around their face and mouth, but the rest of them usually stays the same color.
Okay, and one final question here, just because I think it's really quick to answer. How big do bears normally get?
Well, it depends on the bear. Black bears, now I'm forgetting how big they usually get, but black bears are not that big of a bear. If you had like a grizzly bear or a polar bear, those are a lot bigger. But a black bear, they can get anywhere up to, how big could they get? I don't know. They can get up to like maybe like 600 or 700 pounds. And that's pretty big, right? But they're not as big as some other kinds of bears. So let me see. I don't know anything about polar bears. Let me see how big a polar bear can be. Oh, yep. So a black bear can be like 600 pounds, but a polar bear can be almost 1,000. So they're a lot bigger.
All right, and I know you had to move on, Miss G, so.
All right. Well, we're gonna do one more animal. So guys, cover the top of your screen and see if you can guess what kind of animal this is just by looking at its tracks. This next one. Anybody know? Do you know from the tracks? Yup, it's squirrel tracks. Kind of like the raccoon tracks, they have like little hands. But look at this. What's different between their front and their back feet? What do you notice about the front versus the back foot? You guys can say it into the chat if you notice. What do you notice about it? We are small and bigger. Look at one is small, yeah, the wider apart. What about this? Look at how many toes it has. There's less toes. Yeah, there's only 4 toes on the front and then 5 toes on the back. Remember, the raccoon had 5 and 5, but a squirrel has 4 and 5. So if you see a tiny track with 4 in the front and 5 in the back, then that's going to be your squirrel. And so this is what the squirrel prints look like on the side here. So you see their front one, and you can have little pads. And it can go further back. It doesn't always go further back. And then here's an example in the snow. So it's really easy to see it in the snow. Sometimes it might be a little harder to see because they're so small. All right. Now, guys, you ready for a video about seeing tracks? And these are real tracks that the guy uses. He does something really cool. He finds a track in the wild and he fills it with like this liquid paste. It dries and then he has a model of a track so he can make new tracks. It's gonna be really cool. So you guys ready to see a video about tracking animals? I like this one.
And make sure you're sharing sound as well, Miss G.
All right. Yeah, guys, let me know if you can hear the video okay.
Good.
All right, guys, so let me know. Can you hear
Good
this
boy.
okay?
This is my tracker dog.
Yeah, we can hear
What
it.
he and I are getting ready to do is share some information on how you can become a tracker too. So follow along and we'll see what we can find. There's two very important things if you want to start tracking other animals. And that is, first, you have to be able to find them. Number two, once you find them, you have to be able to identify them. We're going to talk about both. The first thing I want to make sure that we know is that you don't just wander aimlessly looking for tracks. One of the things that's really important to do is to start looking in areas that I call track traps. These are areas where you're likely to find animal tracks. Let's talk about a few. A place like this is fantastic. This is just a mud puddle along a trail or a road. And what you can easily do is find a bunch of tracks in a spot like this, mainly because this used to have water in it and animals would come to it to drink. As the mud starts to dry, it holds those tracks and makes it easier for you to be able to see them. Let's go take a look at another spot.
All right, guys, so we kind of already asked this before. What's a place near your house that could be a good place to find some tracks? So we already talked about this before, right? We talked about how if there's mud or if there's dirt, or like, do you have a park nearby your house where you could go? A garden is a great place. Pretty much, if you live in the woods, it could be everywhere. The woods. Oh, a flour spill in the kitchen. Yes, you can find evidence of tracks that way. That's a really cool idea. Yup, if you guys can't answer on the board, that's okay. You guys can answer in chat. So I'm seeing some cool answers everywhere, in the garden, in a field, in the mud, dirt, grass, snow, near water. Near water is a great place because animals need to drink. A bike trail. Ooh, that is awesome. Shivansh, that's a really good idea. Nice. In the grass, guys, in your backyard. Awesome. Tons of awesome answers. Also, guys, if anybody needed to try to join this link again, let me put it into the chat. You guys can try joining in again if you couldn't before, if you missed it. So now let's go to the next one. Yeah, on a hike would be great. So guys, these are some of the different tracks. We already talked about some of these, but some of these are new ones. So these are some of the different tracks that you might see. So let's go on back to that video and learn a little bit more about tracking some of these different animals. And he's going to show some of these in the video. Oops, let me get to the right place. There we go.
Hey everybody, this is Craig Cottle, Director of Nature.
There we are. Let's continue.
This is a fantastic place to start looking for sign out in the middle of a wilderness. And what I mean by that is that you take some forested area and where it opens up into an open area, and animals love to lounge and walk and feed along these types of changes where it goes from one type of ground to another type of ground. And so just by locating wildlife openings in something like this is going to be a fantastic spot to walk right along the edge of the woods and see what it is that you can see in this area, because they'll start to show up rather quickly just looking in a spot like this. Now I've got a big surprise for you back at the table. What we're going to do is I've made some casts of various tracks. What we're going to take are those casts and make them make a track in some sand so that you can see what they look like. And we'll talk about the individual pieces so that when you look at a track, you'll know, hey, I'm looking at a dog track, or I'm looking at a cat track, or this is what a raccoon looks like, this is what a deer looks like, and stuff like that. So let's go back there and check it out. All right, now we have a mobile track trap, and we're going to put some tracks in it. First one I'm going to put in, something that's going to be real obvious for a lot of people. You've probably seen this one before. Let's talk about it.
All right, guys, so what kind of animal do you think that was that he just put into the ground? So these are some of the answers you can vote on, but what do you guys think? You can type it into chat too. What kind of animal did you think that one was? All right, so I'm seeing a lot of votes for dog. So let's see what he says. You guys are saying like dog or cat seems to be some of the top options. A couple people are saying it could be a bear. So let's see what he tells us.
So this is a dog track. Here's some things to note about a dog track. It has 1, 2, 3, 4 toes. It has a heel pad, and almost always in dog tracks you see the claw marks. So if you look at the cast, you can see this right here. You can see the claws in each one of these, and you can see the heel pad and the 4 toes. Also, the outline of a dog track is almost always about the shape of an egg. And so when you see this, these are going to be the indicators that you have seen a dog track. Now let's take a look at a cat. So if you were to make a guess, does the cat have claw marks in it too? Let's take a look. This is actually the cast of a bobcat. Ba-boom! It also has 4 toes, just like the dog. 1, 2, 3, 4. It has a heel pad, but you can tell you don't really see the claw marks in the cat track. That's one of the things that you can tell is a difference between the two. And the cat track almost always looks like a circle if you draw a line around the outside. So let's put them right next together. Dog track looks like an oval. Cat track right next to it looks like a circle. You see the claw marks in the dog, you don't see the claw marks in the cat. 1, 2, 3, 4 toes, 1, 2, 3, 4 toes. So that's very different than what a lot of people think. Claw marks in a track almost always point to a dog, and if there are no claw marks and it has 4 toes and it looks like this, it's oftentimes going to be a cat. Now let's take a look at something that's a little less common. What's that look like? That's pretty cool, isn't it?
All right, guys, what do you think that one is? Bear or skunk? Okay, 2 options, bear or skunk. Oh, guys, don't draw on the board. Thank you. It was too fast. Don't worry, Journey, you'll see it in just a sec. So it looks like most of you guys are saying black bear or skunk. Remember, if it was a raccoon, raccoons have like what looks like hands. So I don't think it could be that one. It's not mountain lion because we just learned those would be round and not have claws. So let's see what this one is.
Pretty cool, isn't it? Let's point some things out that look very different than what we looked at before. First off, we have 1, 2, let me point with this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 toes. Before we were only looking at 4. We do see some claw marks. We got 1 here, 1 here, 1 here.
Hey, Miss G.
Barely 1 right there. And we have a real long heel pad right here.
Can you just post the link again? For some of our people accidentally clicked out of the link, so that way they can
Oh, no.
part of
Here we
nearby.
go. Thank you.
Mhm.
This is the track of a juvenile, a young black bear cub. Black bears almost always show 5 toes. And if you look at it just here without the claws, it kind of looks like a human foot, doesn't it? But when you put those claws on there, makes a really big difference for what it is that we're seeing. This is a juvenile black bear. Now let's look at some tracks that, again, you can probably see in every county in Kentucky. This is a deer track. You have 2 toes. They're pointed towards the front and they're rounded at the back. If you draw a line around this one, a lot of people say, huh, looks like a heart. Isn't that cool? One of the things that you'll see oftentimes with deer tracks, you can kind of see it with these two, is there's actually 2 deer tracks here. There's one that's underneath and there's one that's on top. That's very hard to see, but that's what we call direct register, because when a deer puts its foot down, let's say it's front foot and it's walking this way, as it puts its foot down, the back foot will come up, and when it steps on the ground, will almost always step right on top of the front foot.
All right, guys, so did you catch what he said? What is it called when the tracks are like right inside of each other? The back, front, and the front foot are right on top of each other. What do you say it was called? Break dancing. That would be a cool name. All right, so it looks like we're between direct register or double track are kind of the 2 top ones. All right. Well, if you said direct register, you are correct. It's direct register because they're landing directly on top of each other. So it's called direct register when they're right on top. And deer will often do this. So if you walk along, it might look like there's not enough tracks for a whole animal, but that's because it's stepping on its own tracks.
And you'll have 2 tracks that are sitting right on top of one another. This is what we call direct register. This is another really cool track. I often find these around some garbage cans, even in a city. If you have any sort of food source out in the middle of a farm, you'll often see this as well, like in a barn. Check this one out. That is a raccoon track. Let's talk about some things that identify it. It has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 toes. It has a heel pad, and it has claws almost in every single track that you'll find. You'll see for every toe, you'll see these claws. Now, if you draw an outline around it, it often looks like a circle, much like the cat track did. But the difference between the cat track is a cat track only shows 4 toes, whereas a raccoon shows 5. You might be real surprised at how big this next one is. Check that out. This.
Oh, guys, what was that one? What do you guys think that one was? Is it a velociraptor? Is it a turkey? Is it a duck? Is it an opossum? What is it? It did look like the arrow to a treasure map.
Lots of people saying turkey.
A lot of people saying turkey. I think one person said velociraptor. I mean, it kind of does look like a velociraptor track, doesn't it? All right, well, I think you guys are saying it's mostly turkey, so let's see what he says it is in the video.
This is a wild turkey track. It has 3 main toes, 1, 2, 3. Hard to see right here, but you have a heel pad right there, almost about the size of a dime. And oftentimes you'll see a really blunt, what looks like a claw on the end of every toe. That's almost as big as my hand is. Probably is as big as your hand is. You'll find wild turkeys in a lot of wilderness areas in Kentucky. It's a fun one to find because they gobble at you. Who do you think this next one is? You're right, it's an owl. This is so cool. Owls, as you probably already know, like to stand on branches, and so they'll often have 1, 2, 3, and they'll have a big toe in the back to grab hold of things that they eat, as well as to hold on really good with branches that they're standing on. You'll see that they also have some really big claw marks that show up in the track, and that is definitely there to help them grab their food so they can hang on to it while they eat. Have you ever noticed that some birds hop on 2 feet together? This particular animal right here is a woodpecker. It's got 2 toes in the front, 2 toes in the back, which makes it real easy for them to grab a hold of a tree and walk up the side of a tree, hang on, do their business, peck, 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 get some bugs out, eat really good, and then fly to the next one, land on the next tree. And so this is an indicator of a woodpecker. All right, let's take a look at something that's important to understand. Both of these are cat tracks. This is a mountain lion, 1, 2, 3, 4 toes, same heel pad. This is a bobcat, 1, 2, 3, 4 toes, same heel pad. So a mountain lion track is going to be almost as big as the palm of my hand as an adult. A bobcat is going to be much smaller, and then if I had one for a house cat, it would be even smaller than that. And so knowing the different sizes of tracks is important as well, so you don't walk out and see a track like this and think, oh, there's a mountain lion in my woods. It's probably just a bobcat or a house cat. Now let's do the same thing with dogs. Over here we have our coyote track, 1, 2, 3, 4 toes, heel pad with claws. Over here we have a gray wolf, 1, 2, 3, 4 toes, heel pad, claws. Look how different the sizes are of these 2 animals. This is a wolf. This is a coyote. So it's hard to think that you're seeing what could be a wolf when you're actually just seeing somebody's big St. Bernard or their big dog out in the woods, because we don't have wolves here in Kentucky. But we do have coyotes. So knowing the difference in the size, think about it. The wolf is bigger than my hand, really. The coyote is much smaller than my hand. It's a big thing to make notice of when you're looking at tracks in the outdoors. And the last one that I have to show you is very, very special. Look how big this is. If I make this track, it's bigger than my hand, a lot bigger.
All right, guys, what do you think this last animal is? Emery, I'll make sure to get you the video after class. They make some really cool videos. Vulture, bald eagle. What do you guys think it is? A sparrow? Well, sparrows are this big. That's kind of a big foot for it. I don't know. Imagine like it was bigger than his hand, like the whole claws were as long as his hand. So what kind of animal would have to be that big? I'm seeing a lot of votes for bald eagle. Well, let's see. This is the last one we're looking at together.
Let's point out what we have here. 1 toe, 2 toes, 3 toes, 4 toes, and big claw marks way out there. This is a track of an American eagle. Very cool track, very big. Imagine as you're seeing a big eagle, the symbol of America, flying through the sky. This is how big its foot is. Come down and get the things that it likes to eat out in the woods and on a lake in particular. They love to swoop into lakes and grab fish, take them back up to their nest. The American eagle. I hope you've enjoyed looking at these tracks. This has been fun for me. I hope it's been fun for you. Next time you get out, make sure you're going out with an adult. adults, so you can look for tracks, look for those mud puddles, look around to see if you can see any tracks in them. When you go hiking in the woods sometime, if you ever get a chance to do that, then look in muddy areas where a creek crosses and see if you can see any tracks. It's like playing detective, and it's a lot of fun. Come on, join in. Let's learn together.
Well, guys, I hope you enjoyed that. What I'm going to do now is there are some chances to identify more animals on the next slides. I'm going to make it so that if you were able to join this, you can go on ahead and look at some of those. But otherwise, that's what I had for you guys for today. And I hope you really enjoyed that.